How strong is China really? And could China ever attack the West? The clearest answer is this. China is a stronger and more dangerous rival than some Western debates are willing to admit. But the open evidence available right now does not prove that Beijing has made a final decision for war against the West, and it does not give us a fixed timetable either. Those 2 points matter equally. A lot of confusion comes from mixing different kinds of claims together. We need to separate verified facts from plausible interpretations, disputed claims, and pure speculation. If we blur those categories, we end up in one of two bad places. Either we become complacent and dismiss real warning signs, or we drift into fantasy and treat every capability as proof of imminent war. Start with one verified fact that is hard to ignore. In desert training areas, China has built target mock-ups resembling U.S. destroyers and aircraft carriers. That is not rumor. It strongly suggests training against a specific type of opponent and very plausibly against high-value American naval targets. It does not by itself prove a decision to attack. Militaries often train against potential opponents. But it is serious evidence of preparation for a relevant contingency, especially in any future conflict involving U.S. forces in the Western Pacific. That matters because China's military planning is not centered on old ideas of endless human waves. Raw population comparisons are misleading in modern war. What matters far more is logistics, training, precision strike, repair capacity, reconnaissance, data processing, joint command, and political endurance under pressure. A military that can find targets, pass data quickly, launch coordinated strikes, repair damage, and sustain operations has an advantage that simple headcounts cannot capture. China still has enormous scale, but even that picture needs qualification. Its demographic edge is no longer what it once was. China's population is shrinking and aging, so claims that it could casually absorb 100 million deaths as if that were a minor cost are not serious analysis. They ignore the realities of modern states, modern economies, and modern politics. Any major war would impose enormous social, economic, and strategic costs on China, just as it would on anyone else. Chinese defense thinking itself reflects that reality. The emphasis is not just mass, but mechanization, informatization, and military intelligence. In practical terms, that means networked sensors, joint operations, missiles, drones, electronic warfare, data fusion, and rapid targeting. This is a military trying to build the ability to see more, decide faster, and strike accurately across domains. That should not be underestimated. China is also said to have the world's largest navy by ship count. That is an important indicator, but it does not automatically prove overall superiority over the U.S. Navy. Ship numbers alone are incomplete. Capability depends on many things: training, sustainment, air cover, submarine warfare, weapons quality, repair infrastructure, combat experience, and the ability to operate over distance. So ship count is real evidence of scale, but not a final answer. Other indicators point in the same direction. China has invested heavily in missiles, air defense, space, and cyber capabilities. CEPRI estimates roughly $336 billion for China's 2025 military budget. Its nuclear arsenal is estimated at around 600 warheads. Those numbers and systems do not tell us exactly what Beijing will do, but they do tell us China has built broad military power well beyond a narrow, territorial defense force. So what is the strongest evidence for danger? It is not dramatic internet theory. It is the combination of verified capabilities that threaten U.S. forces in the Western Pacific, plus concrete signs like those ship mock-ups that indicate serious preparation for relevant contingencies. And what is the strongest evidence against alarmist claims? Again, it is important to stay disciplined. Militaries routinely train for possible opponents. Training against an enemy type is not the same as deciding to start a war. The available evidence does not support the claim that China has already fixed a date, made an irreversible decision, or chosen a timetable for attacking the West. If there is a likely flashpoint, it is the Taiwan Strait, not Europe and not the U.S. West Coast. China officially opposes Taiwanese independence and does not rule out coercion. That is where the strategic tension is most acute. And in 2025, Chinese exercises around Taiwan reportedly included blockade scenarios, attacks on sea targets, strikes on ground targets, and precision operations. Those activities matter because they show which tools Beijing appears to consider realistic. That leads to a key point. China's most immediate strength may not be invasion at all. It may be graduated coercion, quarantine, blockade, missile strikes, cyber attacks, communication disruption, psychological intimidation, economic pressure. These options can create severe pressure while staying below the threshold of full-scale war, or at least below the point where outside powers can easily agree on a response. In strategic terms, that may be more useful than a dramatic all-or-nothing assault. A full-scale invasion of Taiwan would be exceptionally difficult. Crossing water is hard. Securing ports is hard. Clearing mines is hard. Suppressing air defenses is hard. Sustaining resupply is hard. Protecting vulnerable transport is hard. All of this would have to happen under intense pressure and likely under surveillance. On top of that, the PLA has very little modern large-scale combat experience. That does not mean it could not fight effectively, but it is a serious limitation when compared with the complexity of amphibious warfare. Some specialist studies and satellite imagery suggest that China is integrating civilian roll-on, roll-off ferries and other commercial vessels into amphibious logistics and exercises. That may expand transport capacity, and it fits a broader pattern of civil-military integration. This is worth taking seriously, but it also needs caution. Civilian ferries are one component of capability, not a magic solution. They remain vulnerable, and they depend heavily on usable ports. So, claims that these vessels mean China has already solved the Taiwan problem are not supported. This is also why some of the more extreme scenarios should be treated skeptically. Gray zone and asymmetric tools look much more plausible than exotic chemical or biological attacks through supply chains. In principle, mass poisoning concepts may be scientifically imaginable, but that is not the same as having evidence for a robust state strategy. Such scenarios are unproven and extremely difficult to execute reliably on a large scale. They make for frightening speculation, but they are not the strongest place to focus if the goal is sober threat assessment. The better approach is to recognize both strength and constraint. China today is stronger, broader, and more formidable than it was 20 years ago. Its military modernization is real. Its missile forces, naval expansion, air defense, cyber and space capabilities, and its apparent preparation for conflict involving U.S. intervention all deserve close attention. At the same time, China is not unconstrained. It faces economic pressure, an aging population, export vulnerabilities, energy vulnerabilities, and the huge costs and uncertainties of war. Even a successful military operation could produce severe long-term damage, and an unsuccessful one could be catastrophic. So could China ever attack the West? In a direct, simple sense, the evidence does not justify saying that Beijing has chosen to launch a general war against the West. But in a more practical and immediate sense, China already has the means to pressure, intimidate, and threaten Western forces and partners, especially in the Western Pacific. That is where the danger is sharpest. The greatest risk may not be a sudden world war announced in advance. It may be incremental coercion below the threshold of open war, a blockade framed as law enforcement, cyber disruption without clear attribution, strikes presented as limited punishment, economic pressure mixed with information warfare, and military moves designed to test whether opponents hesitate. That is why the correct response is preparation, not panic. Underestimating China would be foolish. Overstating what the evidence proves would be foolish too. Serious analysis means staying close to what is verified, being honest about what is only plausible, rejecting what remains disputed or speculative, and preparing for the most realistic forms of pressure and conflict. If you want more clear-eyed analysis like this, subscribe, enable notifications, and suggest the next topic in the comments.